All right. Welcome, everybody. The meeting of the Everwood Alliance Assembly will now come to order. And I pass the gavel to the Chancellor Pro Tempore, Amy.
Will the House Chaplain please offer the invocation?
Yes. All right. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, please know everything before this wonderful day that we have to learn of the assembly, and that we can take this to heart and remember it. Please help us have the grace of this day and be grateful for what we have. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
I will now entertain any motions.
I move that we have some fun.
Any seconds?
I second that.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. The Chancellor recognizes Catherine for 6 minutes of a fun activity.
Hello, my
Catherine-
friends. It's the fairy godmother here. We're going to have some fun today. I have a little bit of a frog in my throat. That happens in fairy tale land sometimes, especially when all the trees are having happy fun together and making all this pollen. So today we will play a little game called Never Have I Ever. Now, the way we play this game is, I assume you all have your characters, or at least most of you. And what we're going to do today when we play the game is we're going to tell something that our character never would they ever have done. So I will give you an example with me, and I will call on people as we go around. I'm the fairy godmother, but you don't know that, or at least pretend you don't know that. And then I would say, never have I ever turned a watermelon into a coach. And then you would obviously go, wonder who turns things into coaches. She didn't turn a watermelon into a coach. Must be the fairy godmother. Do you get it? Okay, so I'll call on someone. Bonnie, would you go next?
Sure. Never have I ever asked my husband to steal carrots from the neighbor's garden.
Who could she be? Any guesses?
Rapunzel's mother.
Ding, ding, ding. That is correct.
Perfect. Okay, let's go on. I see Ethan is bred today. Let's pick on somebody else. Denver, do you have your character?
I do.
Tell us what you've never done.
It's a good question.
Actually, if you could raise your hand if you're ready. Actually, wait, I have a better idea. Let's all take 20 seconds or 30 seconds and think about what your thing will be, and then we'll let Denver go.
Okay.
Okay, just take Okay, take 20 seconds for everyone. That feels like a long time, doesn't it? Okay, Denver, tell us what your character never has ever done.
Never have I ever made a wish.
Who would that be, guys?
I feel like everybody should know who my character is.
So there is When You Wish Upon a Star, but I think there's another story with lots of wishes, or at least 3.
Abu.
Ding. Yep. Oh, Claire, do you want to go next?
What? What are we doing?
Oh, I'll let you watch and follow along. Our character we've received as for the Everwood Alliance, we're telling what our character would never do by playing Never Have I Ever, and then guessing who our characters are. Raise your hand if you want to turn. Nathaniel, do you want to try?
I'll go. Never have I ever not liked that boulder.
Any guesses?
I couldn't find another one other than that one. It was a really nice boulder.
Any guesses?
This
Tell us
just-
who you are,
This just
Nathaniel.
sounds like your normal fetish about Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Okay. All right. That's enough.
Tell us who you are, Nathaniel.
I'm the donkey from Shrek.
Okay, Kindon. Can you go next and then Noel?
Never have I ever been stuck in a cow.
Anybody?
Tom Thumb.
Yes.
Noel and then Amy.
Never have I ever herded ducks.
Never have you ever heard?
Herded ducks.
Okay, herded ducks. Who's Noel? Does anyone know?
This game is pretty hard because, like, we all know there's a lot of things we have done that distinguishes us, but there's
Yeah,
not a
that's
lot of things that we like distinguish, like a distinguishing factor about us that we haven't done. Does that make sense?
I mean,
Yeah,
I
that
know
makes
who she
sense.
is, but I knew
Do you wanna
who
change
she
the way
was
we play it?
before.
I mean, the opposite of this game would just be I've done XYZ, but
Fine.
that's not really fun. But we can still do it.
Well, we could still just do never have I ever to think about it and then just say who our character is right after. Does that work?
Is Goose Girl, right?
Yeah. So Amy and then Finn.
Never have I ever been a man.
It's actually
Tell us who
really
you are.
good.
That's all I could think of.
Tell us
Who are you, Amy?
I move on.
Mulan. Okay. Go ahead, Finn, and then Ryan.
Never have I ever lost my boots.
Lost your what?
My boots.
Puss in Boots?
Yay. Ryan, and then whoever is with Ryan.
Does our mic work?
Yes.
Okay, we haven't been here since we've had things going on. I don't know how to check who we are.
It's okay.
On one of the emails.
No, that's okay. We'll get you going next time. Okay,
Sorry.
Eliza, that's okay. Eliza and then Hiram.
Okay. Never have I ever worn ruby slippers.
Hmm.
The Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
Of
the West.
no, is it?
Okay, Hiram, do yours.
Never have I ever. Can you come back to me?
Yeah, sure. Let's do Levi and Claire.
Never have I ever cut my hair.
Oh, that one's easy.
Rapunzel. Yeah.
Okay, Levi.
Never have I ever worn my dead.
Repeat what he said.
He said, never have I ever worn my dead father's jacket.
Tell us who you are, Levi.
He's Peter Rabbit.
Okay, Hiram, and then Andrew Butler.
Never have I ever been kissed by a princess.
Anybody?
I thought we were supposed to be talking about our fairy tale characters.
Oh.
Dang,
Right,
that was
Denver.
cold.
We're gonna send you a plague of frogs.
You're so mean, bro.
No, it's true.
All right.
It is true.
Who is Hiram, guys?
The Prince Frog.
That's right, the Frog Prince. Okay, Andrew, and then Trinity.
I
I haven't gotten my character yet.
Okay, Trinity, thank you. We'll do Jade after Andrew.
Never have I ever met 7 elves. It's pretty obvious. No one?
Are you a dwarf?
No. Oh my goodness.
Out of all the people to
7.
be a dwarf, I think you should be a dwarf, Andrew.
Well, can you say it again?
Never have I ever met 7 elves.
He's Snow White.
Like worse.
No, I'm not
Okay, but
7.
he
I'm not that.
Okay. Hasn't been.
We're not.
Tell us who you are, Andrew.
The prince from the. Wait a minute.
Emily.
Is there a prince in Snow White? Yeah, there is.
No, no. Yeah, definitely no prince in that. I'm a prince, yeah.
Perfect. Isabel Taylor, did you have a question?
No, I just had
Okay.
my.
So let's do Jade, and then we already did Finn, right? So let's do it in this order real quick. Jade, Clark, Alyssa,
I
Eliza.
don't have my character yet.
Okay, great. That's great. Jade, Clark, and Eliza then.
Are we supposed to lie?
Yeah, you're never say something you've never done. It can be obvious.
Like, say something our character has never done, or say
Yeah,
something our character has
like
done?
maybe you'd say never have I ever read a bunch of books, but you can make up your own.
Like, I don't understand.
Say
So-
something your character has never done.
That
That would.
makes it obvious that they have done and you say you've never done it.
Oh, it's just a
never
lot.
have I
Oh,
ever-
guess.
Never have I ever liked Gaston.
There you go. That one's easy.
Bell.
Yeah.
So Clark, Eliza, Miriam, and Sophie.
Never have I ever backed down from a challenge. That's too broad. Never have I ever.
Gaston.
No, it's not Gaston. It's not. Never have I ever died in a giant worm.
Cinderella.
What?
I said never have I ever died in a giant worm.
Yeah. Cinderella.
No.
Clark has a unique one. Tell us what yours is, Clark.
Mine is Ashipattle from the from a Scottish folktale. He went and killed a giant worm, which then became Iceland.
Very interesting. Okay.
Giant
Never heard of
massive
it.
worm and saved the princess. Became
So
Scotland.
let's do really quick. Isabel, Miriam, Sophie, and Ethan, if you're on.
Never have I ever had any issues fitting or trying on shoes and fitting them.
One of the stepsisters.
Cinderella.
Yeah, I'm one of the stepsisters.
Sisters. And Eliza, I skipped you.
Yeah, I was like, what? I can go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Never have I ever married a bear.
Ooh.
Snow White.
Goldilocks?
It's not a very common character. It's pretty like vague. Not many people know it.
Just go ahead and tell us who it is.
It's Rose Red. My sister married a bear.
Rose Red. Okay. So Miriam, Sophie, and Ethan. Are you on, Miriam? Okay, let's hop over to Sophie.
Never have I ever had ice powers.
She doesn't have ice powers. Who is she?
Anna.
Yeah.
Okay, Miriam, are you on? Ethan,
I don't know. I don't really know something to do. I can't think of anything.
tell us who your character is then.
It's the fox from Fox and the Hound.
Well, so never have you ever
Had a friend not try to kill me? I don't know.
Todd.
Okay. Anybody else that we missed want to turn or just to tell us your character? If you don't have a character, you should be getting those early this week. I yield back the time.
Ethan, just say it.
Thank you.
Ethan,
I will now. Oh wait, sorry.
I think Ethan got missed.
Catherine, would you like to call on Ethan?
Yes, Ethan.
He just said in the chat, never have I ever cleaned my house.
Hashtag
thank you. So who is Ethan, guys?
One of the 7 dwarfs.
Perfect.
He
Sorry
said
to
yes.
Ethan. Sorry
Which
about that.
one? Oh, okay.
I yield back the time. Thank you.
All right. I will now entertain any motions.
I move that we discuss follow-up work.
It has been moved that we discuss follow-up work. Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we discuss follow-up work. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
In the eyes of the Chancellor, this motion passes. The Chancellor recognizes Bonnie for 3 minutes to discuss follow-up work.
Thank you, Madam Chancellor. All right, so last week we gave invitations that if you would like to, you could do follow-up work in one of 2 ways. So I'm just going to ask if anybody did one of these things and if you want to share about it. First of all, if you wanted to, I shared links to 2 videos that were the committee meeting that I had watched in preparation for last week's work. And you could watch the committee meeting videos if you wanted to. Did anybody do that? Okay, then the other invitation was that you could write a bill. Did anybody do that? Okay, then that's the entire discussion for the follow-up work. And with that, I yield my time.
I will now entertain any motions.
I move that we learn more about parliamentary procedure.
It has been moved that we learn more about parliamentary procedure. Are there any seconds?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we learn about parliamentary procedure. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. In the eyes of the Chancellor, this motion passes. The Chancellor recognizes Nicholas, the fairy godmother, and Bonnie for 10 minutes to learn more parliamentary procedure.
Okay, everybody. We have a couple of things we want to share and demonstrate today about parliamentary procedure. So the first one is a point of information, which can also be called a request for information. So if a person has a question about the substance of what we're talking about the facts related to the topic being discussed on the floor, it's really just a way to ask the Chancellor, if we're in the whole assembly, or the chair, if we're in committee, a question. So, or to ask another member, like if you wanted to ask the parliamentarian a question, you would direct the question to the Chancellor to then ask the parliamentarian for information that's relevant to the business that's being discussed, but not related to parliamentary procedure. So for instance, if we were discussing a bill about poisoning apples, right? Because that's one of our go-tos, and you wanted to understand a piece of information. Like I want to understand what the studies have shown about this substance and what it does if you put it into apples. You know, if some kind of question like that, relevant information that you need to help you make your decision, then you would ask a point of information, and it can be used anytime. It shouldn't be permitted to interrupt a speaker unless it's necessary to do justice to the person asking the question. So I mean, it can be used anytime, but don't just do it to interrupt somebody, right? So we're going to demonstrate this with an example. So the inquirer, or the person that's asking the question, stands in place and says, "Mr. Chairman, I rise for information," or "I rise to a point of information." Then the chairman.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Is Mr. Chairman, I rise for information.
Then the chair responds,
State the point upon which the inquirer desires information.
The inquirer says,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask about poison apples. Are we talking about all apples or just the red ones?
if the chair deems it pertinent, he answers the question. Or if the inquiry is made when another person has the floor, so it's not the chair that's running the floor, there is no necessity for answering it until the speech is finished. The chair waits to answer until after the speaker has closed his remarks. If the information is desired of the person speaking instead of the chair, the inquirer still addresses the chair because it is not in order for members to address one another in the assembly. So this is what that would look like. The inquirer, upon rising, says,
Mr. Chairman, I rise to a point of information.
State the point upon which the inquirer desires information.
The inquirer stands in place and says,
Mr. Chairman, I should like to ask the gentlewoman from Storybook a question.
The chairman then asks the person who is speaking if they are willing to be interrupted.
Is the gentlewoman from Storybrooke willing to be interrupted?
If the person speaking consents to the interruption, the time is taken out of her time, the speaker's time. And if she consents, she will say, "Yes, Mr. Chairman." The chair then directs the inquirer to proceed.
The inquirer may proceed.
Mr. Chairman.
The inquirer. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I should like to ask the gentlewoman from Storybook about her kingdom. I would say something. Yes, about her kingdom or her realm.
The person speaking responds through the chairman. So both the person asking the question and the person who was interrupted are both speaking through the chairman. So they would say, "Mr. Chairman," and then they would answer the question.
So Bonnie, let's do that again real quick so that
Yeah.
they understand. You're the speaker from Storybook, Nicholas is the chairman, and I'm the person standing in my place asking the question.
Perfect.
I'll come up with a better question about Storybook. But
Okay.
so go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I should like to ask the gentlewoman from Storybook a question.
Is the gentlewoman from Storybrooke willing to be interrupted?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
The inquirer may proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I should like to ask the gentlewoman if there are any streams in Storybrooke.
Mr. Chairman, there are streams in Storybrooke. And then I would just continue on with my speech for the remainder of my time. And then when I'm done, I would yield back my time. So each time the speaker addresses the chair, but then the chair only responds when they have a response to make. So it's like we're kind of having this conversation, but we keep talking as if to the chair. Does anyone have any questions about that part before we do the next part?
Does what happens if they do not consent to being interrupted?
Then you don't get to ask the question at that time. Maybe you bring it up later, or maybe you don't, but they get to finish their time if they didn't consent to yield.
What would that sound like if they did not consent?
So I can speak to that real quick, Clark.
Yeah.
So the point of this is for this to facilitate conversation and debate. So if you're asking the speaker a question, often it's going to be a clarifying question. which Nicholas and I will do a little bit later in our example as well. But you want to just ask, like, if she's giving a bill about streams, then I might ask if there are any streams in Storybook to see if it's relevant. So if she were to say that she didn't want to gild the time, she would just say no and keep going. It's really just a quick way to it's a polite, quick way to interrupt, to clarify something or get a piece of information so that everybody in the group can keep going. Maybe the speaker isn't making it clear. This is a way for you to clarify really quick and then keep it going. It's not, you don't have to wait till they're all the way done with what they say. And we haven't followed what they've said. And then you come back around for your turn and you have to ask that question, but then we still don't know what she says. So you're just jumping in real quick to get information and then pulling right back out. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, the next part is a point of misrepresentation, and it's to point out that the speaker has set up a straw man or misrepresented the argument of the opposing side. The interrupted speaker does not have to respond. This is used to highlight that the interrupted speaker is unfairly treating their opposition. At the sim, like at Yes Week, we will use this as a way to point out fallacies in people's arguments. And that will be shown more later too. And with that, we yield our time for this segment.
I now pass the gavel to the next Chancellor Pro Tempore, Alyssa.
Thank you, Madam Chancellor. I will now entertain any motions.
I move that we learn a rhetoric skill and logical fallacies.
It has been moved that we learn a rhetoric skill and logical fallacies. Any seconds?
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we learn a rhetoric skill and logical fallacy. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed say nay. In the eyes of the Chancellor, this motion passes. The Chancellor recognizes Nicholas and Catherine for 10 minutes to learn about rhetoric skill and logical fallacy.
Thank you. So in the past few weeks, we've talked about making a claim, we've talked about giving reasons, and we've talked about using evidence to support our reasons in making an argument. And today we're going to talk about shared assumptions. So we started our argument with the basic idea that we need to do something about the foxes because of that story with the fox and the gingerbread man. And we didn't really have any evidence to back that up. And so Catherine distracted from our argument by using a red herring. And she gave a bunch of irrelevant information to get us off course. And we didn't have any way to respond to that. So then we introduced some reasons and evidence. We said, well, the reason is because they're causing problems for the gingerbread men. And our evidence is that the little red hen saw the fox eat the gingerbread man while he was crossing the pond. So now Catherine could still distract us by bringing up emotional appeals, and she accused me of hypocrisy, and she still was trying to get us off course of our argument. So today we're going to talk about shared assumptions. We have to have some common ground with our audience, or we can just argue back and forth for hours and we won't get anywhere. So what is a shared assumption? Another word for this is called a warrant. That's kind of a fancy word, but shared assumption is good enough for here. It's kind of our worldview. It's the way that we're looking at things. So if I were to make an argument, say about the weather, what if I said, it might rain, we should take an umbrella? Well, my argument, my claim is that we should take an umbrella, and my reason is that it might rain. Well, there's a shared assumption there that we both have, and that shared assumption is that better safe than sorry, right? I only said it might rain. What if it doesn't rain? Well, the argument goes something like this. We should take an umbrella because it might rain, and if it does, then better safe than sorry. We should, better to be prepared than not have an umbrella when we need one. If I had a different assumption, if I didn't think that was a good rule of life to live by, maybe I said, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. that's an assumption that I could take. And so you say, well, it might rain, we should take an umbrella. No, we shouldn't. It only said we might rain. So maybe we should just ignore that and cross that bridge when we get to it. So if I have a different way of looking at the world, I can take the same piece of evidence and I may or may not see your argument the way you do. In the fairy tale world, we will each be representing characters, and these characters come from a specific realm and they have specific experiences. And obviously these are made up realms, but we hope that we'll have plenty of details from these stories that you can bring in. And the arguments that you make might need to resonate with other people. So if you're representing an animal, for instance, and your argument only applies to animals, you'll have to figure out some way to get humans to vote for it, because they won't be interested in the shared assumptions that only are relevant for people you're representing. So that's why this is relevant. Another example says, maybe we make a claim that the population of a certain creature in our realm is out of control, needs to be controlled. And our reason is because it's using up all the resources and we're headed for disaster. Well, our shared assumption there is that the only way to prevent disaster is to get rid of the thing that's using up all the resources. Well, what if we had a different assumption? Maybe we need to use our resources more efficiently. So this is kind of a tricky point, and it might be a little bit more difficult aspect of your arguments, but the assumptions that you're basing your argument on are important, and we will see how that works with the fox and the gingerbread man argument. So our claim, we need to do something about foxes. Well, what's our shared assumption? Are we putting it on the foxes? Are we putting it on the gingerbread men, or the couple who made them, or the city? And who should do something about them? And what is it that we should do? There's a lot more that we need to specify. Maybe we think that our problem is best solved by making it illegal. Or maybe we think that our problem is best solved by exiling foxes. We can decide that as we refine our argument, but that's a basic introduction to shared assumptions. And I yield the time to the fairy godmother for a discussion of logical fallacies for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Nicholas. Hello. I want to introduce you to my little friend. Can you see him? Howdy, ma'am. Howdy, sirs. This is the straw man. Hello. The straw man is one of the best named fallacies because it is memorable and vividly illustrates the nature of the fallacy. Imagine a fight in which one of the combatants sets up a straw man and attacks him and then says, "Yay, I won." He didn't fight your argument. He made up his own argument. He fought with himself. That's what the straw man argument is. So this would be an argument if I were the fairy godmother and I would say to you, your curfew is at 10. And Cinderella says, but the ball doesn't even start until 9. And the fairy godmother says, you have chores tomorrow, so you need to be home by 10. Cinderella says, you just want me to be unpopular. She sets up the straw man. You want me to be unpopular. She's arguing that this is my argument, that I want her to be unpopular. You don't care about my happiness. Anything that gets the fairy godmother off the main discussion would be considered a win for the tyrannical princess, right? Or the typical princess. If the fairy godmother's next comment is defensive, such as, I do care about your happiness, she's no longer having the discussion that she started. She's fighting with this straw man argument that the princess made up. And now she might as well give up because she's moved her argument outside of her own argument. You have chores tomorrow. You need to be responsible. Come home at 10. To an argument about happiness. That's not what they were talking about. So with any luck and some rhetorical skill, the princess might be able to guilt the fairy godmother into an even longer curfew, which as it stands worked out for her. But The other one that we want to talk about today, does anybody have any questions about that? Sorry, I took the picture off. Anybody have any questions about that? We all good? Okay, so the next one is going to be the slippery slope. And if you notice my little guy here, this is Jack. Where did Jack do? Do you remember Jack? He and Jill, do you know what they did?
They went up a hill.
That's right. They went down that slippery slope, didn't he? So he's my prop for today, Mr. Jack, the slippery slope guy. So the slippery slope fallacy mimics the pattern of a legitimate argument by telling the consequences that are going to happen, but instead it draws consequences that don't naturally follow or aren't really logically connected to the problem. So here's an example. Unlike Cinderella, who likes to stay up late, the barnyard dog says, if I stay up past midnight, I'll sleep through my alarm in the morning and then I'll be late for work. And if I'm late for work, I'll get written up. And if that happens, no one will think I take my job seriously and I'll end up the joke of the farm. And if I'm the joke of the farm, I'll never be promoted and I can kiss my dream of becoming first barnyard dog. Goodbye. Do you see how over dramatic this is? The slippery slope principle is the over dramatized principle. We're Jack falling down this imaginary hill of all of these problems that don't necessarily logically follow from the original argument. I yield back the time to Nicholas.
All right, thank you. We're going to do a practice argument now. We're going to make a sample argument using point of information and showing the assumptions and these logical fallacies, the straw man and the slippery slope.
So Alyssa, you're playing the role of the committee chair.
The committee chair recognizes the gentleman from Utah for 3 minutes.
All right, my claim is that we need to do something about the foxes. My reason is because they are hurting the gingerbread man. And the evidence is that the little red hen saw the fox eating the gingerbread man while crossing. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask the gentleman from Utah a question.
Is the gentleman from Utah willing to be interrupted?
yes, Madam Chairman.
You may proceed.
Madam Chairman, is the gentleman from Utah talking about foxes eating gingerbread men or gingerbread cookies?
Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chairman, the fox was eating a gingerbread man that used to be a cookie, but came to life as a man.
The gentleman from Utah may proceed.
As I was saying, the evidence is that the little red hen saw the fox eat the gingerbread man when he was crossing the pond with the gingerbread man on his nose.
Would the gentleman yield time?
I yield the time.
So you want to kill all the foxes just because one fox ate one gingerbread man and now you want to kill them all. That's extreme. That's an extreme position.
Point
Very
of misinformation.
I yield back the time to the gentleman from Utah.
That is not what I was saying. You were making a straw man argument. My claim is that something must be done, and the little red hen is willing to testify.
Would the gentleman yield time?
I yield the time.
So you want to remove all the foxes. Well, foxes eat rodents. And if we get rid of all the rodents, and we will be overrun with rats. Think about the Pied Piper. He had to run all the rats out of town with his flute. We will be overrun with rats. Like Moses was from the Bible, was overrun with frogs. We don't even have foxes that are going to, if we don't have foxes, we're going to have a plague. All because one fox ate one gingerbread man.
Point of misinformation.
I yield back the time.
That is also not what I was saying. You are making a slippery slope argument. My claim is that something must be done about foxes, and the little red hen is willing to testify. Next time, I will present a carefully crafted bill and argument that combine all the skills we've learned, and that will make this argument more effective. I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you. I will now entertain any motions.
Can I just say one quick thing? Does anybody have any questions about what we just did?
Could you guys see the logical fallacies in Catherine's arguments that she was interrupting with?
Perfect. Okay, get ready for Sim Week because you'll want to do those. Maybe throw some in there to see if you can trump your opponents. Or watch
Okay,
out for them in the
entertain
media.
motions.
I move that we practice debating bills and amendments on the assembly floor.
It has been moved that we practice debating bills and amendments on the assembly floors. Any seconds?
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we practice debating bills and amendments on the assembly floor. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. In the eyes of the Chancellor, this motion passes. The Chancellor recognizes Bonnie for 15 minutes to practice debating bills and amendments on the assembly floor.
Thank you, Madam Chancellor. Okay, so last week, remember, we talked about what happens in committee meetings and the parliamentary procedure and how that flow works when you debate bills and amendments in committee. So this is the next step of the process. After the bill is recommended by the committee, it goes back to the floor of the assembly. So it's going back to the whole group, the whole assembly together. And I decided that today, rather than telling you all the parliamentary procedure and then practicing, we're going to kind of put those together and do a practice all along the way. So I will help you with the languaging and give instructions as we practice. I thought that that would work better for this. So I will act as the Chancellor for this practice session, and you will see some of the language that I use, and then I will also help you guys with the language that you need to use. For the purposes of our practice, I have asked Noelle, who is our candidate for Assembly Clerk, if she would act as the clerk in our practice, and she is prepared to do that. So that's my little introduction. Now I'm going to start as if I'm the Chancellor in the Assembly, and just know I'll go back and forth between being the Chancellor and helping you guys out to know what's happening. Okay, so as the Chancellor, I will say the clerk will introduce the bills in the hopper. So now the clerk is going to share the bills that are in the hopper and just introduce what they are. You, the rest of you in the assembly, are listening at this time to think about which bill am I interested in discussing, because after the clerk introduces the bills, I as the Chancellor will entertain motions on which bill we discuss. And we're going to actually do that in our little practice session. So be thinking as Noelle reads these bills, which of these three bills you want to discuss today. Go ahead, Noelle.
Assembly Bill 2.1, an act named Bonnie's baby Charlotte May. Whereas Bonnie's baby needs a name, and whereas some members of Bonnie's family have expressed interest in the names Charlotte and May, therefore be it enacted that Bonnie's baby be named Charlotte May. Assembly Bill 2.2, an act to name Bonnie's baby Sophie Grace. Whereas Bonnie's baby needs a name, and whereas some members of Bonnie's family have expressed interest in the names Sophie and Grace, therefore be it enacted that Bonnie's baby be named Sophie Grace. Assembly Bill 2.3, an act to name Bonnie's baby Abigail Pearl. Whereas Bonnie's baby needs a name, and whereas some members of Bonnie's family have expressed interest in the names Abigail and Pearl, therefore be it enacted that Bonnie's baby be named Abigail Pearl.
Thank you to the clerk. And I just want to put this out there. These are real names that my family is really considering. And I just wanted to have something simple that we could debate quickly. And so please indulge me while you potentially help us name our baby. So the three bills were the three different name possibilities. So we have Charlotte May, right, Noelle? Charlotte May, Sophie Grace, or Abigail Pearl. And so now I'm going to, as the Chancellor, open up for any motions. If you want to discuss or debate any one of those names, then you want to be making the motion about which one we discuss. Okay? The Chancellor will entertain motions as to what bill is debated first.
I move to add Finn Jr. to the list.
It has been moved that we add Finn
I
Jr.
second.
Are there? Oh, there is a second. It has been moved and seconded that we add Finn Jr. to the list of baby names, and that we now debate the bill with Finn Jr. as a name. All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm going to ask any opposed, and you really can oppose if you want to on this, because we're going to really have a debate. Any opposed, say nay.
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 No, I wasn't saying that because I wanted people to say no, but I just wanted to make sure you guys knew you were allowed to say no. So at this point, the chancellor, like we've done, would say, in the eyes of the chancellor, and then I pick what I think won. And then, I'm going to tell you that, and I'm going to give you the options of what happens next, and then we'll move back into the practice. So if you disagree with what I thought as the chancellor, then you can call for a roll call vote. If you think I got the vote wrong, or if you think there's just a chance that your side could win and I said that the other side won, then you can call for a roll call vote. If you don't have a problem with what I said, or you think I'm right, then you wouldn't do that. Anyone can just call for a roll call vote, okay? So moving back into the practice, in the eyes of the chancellors, the nays have it, and this motion fails. So
I call for.
Go ahead, Amy.
I call for a call. What?
Okay, go ahead. Just go ahead and let me know that you want to speak.
May I speak?
The chancellor recognizes the assembly member from Virginia.
I call for a roll call vote. Yeah.
The clerk will now do a roll call vote. So now Noelle is, as the clerk, is going to go through and say all of your names. You say aye or nay. She keeps track of it, and then will tell me the vote. Go ahead, Noelle.
Okay. How do I say it again?
You just call a person's name.
Okay. Alyssa.
I vote aye.
Okay. Amy.
And then, Noelle, remember you repeat. Alyssa votes aye.
Alyssa votes aye. Amy.
Aye.
Amy votes aye. Jade. Was that aye?
Nay.
Nay. Jade votes nay. Andrew.
Nay.
Andrew votes nay. Ryan.
Nay.
Ryan votes nay. Harrison.
Aye.
Harrison votes aye. Finn. Finn.
Aye.
Finn votes aye. Claire.
Aye.
Claire votes aye. Levi.
Aye.
Levi votes aye. Ethan.
Aye.
Ethan votes aye. Kendon.
Nay, sir.
Kendon votes nay. Eliza.
Which one?
Oh, sorry, Hester.
Nay.
Eliza votes nay. Isabel.
Nay.
Isabel votes nay. Eliza. Other Eliza.
Yeah, aye.
Eliza votes aye. Nathaniel.
Nay.
Nathaniel votes nay. Clark.
Am I allowed to change my vote?
I vote aye.
Clark votes aye.
Point of
Well, let me pause real quick and speak to that. right now, all we're voting on is if this is the motion that's discussed, not even if this is the bill that passes. And so Clark could vote yes right now, vote aye now, and then still vote nay to defeat the bill later.
But if you voted aye when you did the verbal thing and you changed your mind for the roll call, you can do that and it's fine. I think that's what you were asking.
Yeah, just do it before the clerk announces the results.
Okay, Trinity.
Aye.
Trinity votes aye. Denver.
Nay.
Denver votes nay. Have I missed anybody?
Ethan.
Who?
Ethan said.
No,
Ethan said aye.
The clerk will announce the results.
Give me a second. Okay, the ayes have it.
This motion has passed, and so we will now begin general debate on the motion to name Bonnie's baby Finn Jr. The general debate shall be confined to this bill and potential amendments and shall not exceed 10 minutes, equally divided and controlled by the leaders of the proponents and the oppositions to this bill. Given that this bill was proposed by Finn, if you would like to, Finn, you could be the leader and represent the proponents of the bill. Are you willing to take that position?
Yes.
Okay. So just to let you guys know what's happening. So 5 minutes happens for each side. Finn's going to lead the proponents, the ones that are in favor of the bill, which means she's going to go first. I'll show you in a minute what we're going to do with the opposition side. So I'm going, but first we'll do the proponent side. So I'm going to say, does anyone speak in favor of this bill? As the leader of the proponents, Finn gets basically dibs, and I will recognize Finn to then speak. When Finn speaks, she usually, the leader of the proponents or the oppositions will usually start by saying, I yield to myself as much time as I will consume. In other words, you get to take as much of the 5 minutes as you want because you're the leader of your side of the argument. And then you speak for however long you're consuming up to the 5 minutes. And then you end by saying, I reserve the balance of my time. And you end just for that portion. And then we'll come back to you later. Does that make sense? So I will recognize, in just a minute, I will recognize Finn and she'll say, I yield to myself as much time as I consume. And often when you start, you thank the chair for yielding time, or you just say, thank you, Madam Chair, and then you proceed. So what's Finn going to be talking about? Why she's in favor of this. So she's going to ad lib right now, monologue, whatever she wants to say as to why the baby should be named Finn Jr. Okay, are we ready? Okay, the Chancellor recognizes Finn for up to 5 minutes to speak in favor of the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield to myself as much time as I may consume. Finn Jr. is obviously the correct name choice because any child named in my honor will go on to do incredible things, and all of my spouses can speak to that. I fully believe, and I believe that most of us should and do believe, that Finn Jr. is the most incredible name you could possibly give your child, and it is the only way you will be able to set that child up for success. I yield my time.
The gentlewoman from North Carolina yields her time. So now what I'm going to do is open it up to opposition. Sometimes you have a specific person that you know is leading the opposition to the bill, and sometimes we don't know. So in this case, I don't know who's going to lead the opposition. So I am going to just ask, does anyone rise to speak in opposition to this bill? And then whoever says Madam Chancellor first is who I will call on. And it looks like it's going to be Nathaniel.
Madam Chancellor.
Oh, but Denver snuck in. Okay, but I haven't.
You can go, Denver.
Okay. Does anyone rise to speak in opposition to this bill?
Madam Chancellor, I rise to speak in opposition to this bill.
Okay, so now Denver's going to be, if you're willing, Denver, which it sounds like you are, to be the leader of the opposition to this bill. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So like Finn, that just means that you're the one that kind of controls the time. You have the opportunity to speak first, and you also have the opportunity to determine how much time you're going to give to other people that speak in opposition after you. But first, I'll recognize you. So, and you can, like Finn, you can say, I yield to myself as much time as I consume. And then I really am starting the clock because we really are keeping it to 5 minutes. Okay. So the Chancellor recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina to speak in opposition.
Thank you, Chancellor. I yield to myself as much time as I consume. I would like to point out that upon Finn's original point, one of her points was that all of her spouses would attest to the fact that Finn Jr. would be a fantastic name. But one of her spouses, Isabel Taylor, has already said nay to the bill. Therefore, I don't see much weight in that point. Secondly, I'm not sure that we can judge whether or not the person's going to be successful based off a namesake. Not everybody has, it's not always a good idea to hold somebody to unreasonable standards. I yield my time.
Okay.
Madam Chancellor.
Yes.
Is it possible? Can I say something? How do I do this?
You will get a turn. You're going to speak in opposition, Nathaniel?
Yes.
You will get a turn should Denver allow you to have a turn, but it's not yet. So the way this debate is going to work now is we're going to go back and forth between the proponents of the bill and the opposition to the bill. So we'll go back and forth between Finn's side and Denver's side. And each time I'm going to start and stop the timer that applies to that side, and they get to yield time related to it. So I'm going to next turn the time back over to Finn, who, if she wants to, can, you know, throw in her own little rebuttal to Denver or whatever she wants to say, although it's going to stay really friendly. And all rebuttals and arguments are going to be addressed to the Chancellor. So if Finn wants to speak directly to what Denver said, she would say, Madam Chancellor, blah, 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 blah. The gentleman from North Carolina said blah, 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 and then rebut. But it's all directed as if you're talking to the Chancellor. Or the other option is Finn could decide to yield time, and she'll give a specific amount of time that she then yields to somebody else that's going to speak in favor. Catherine, did you want to jump in?
Just two quick comments. One is that if you want to keep, you've both said you yielded your time. What you want to say is I reserve my time, so that when it goes back and forth between you, you get to keep it and then reassign it. And the second thing I don't remember what I was going to say. Oh, okay. I don't remember what I was going to say. I'll come back to it.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Let me make sure I'm getting everything that I need to say. So, if Finn or Denver, whichever one is your leader, yields you time, then a polite way to start, and the way that's often done, is that you would thank the Chancellor and you would thank the leader for yielding time. And then you would speak, and then you would yield back your time to that leader, and then the leader would reserve the remainder of their time. Because remember, this is Finn and Denver's time, and they can yield you part of it. And so you yield back to them, and then they reserve it back to the Chancellor. Does this all make sense? Okay. So, okay. And I will just keep repeating things. If at any point, by the way, when you're speaking, the amount of time that you have had yielded or the amount of time that your team has left runs out, I will interrupt you and say that the time has expired. If you keep talking and I had a gavel, I would like pound the gavel if you keep talking and remind you that your time is expired. One other thing about that is if you are yielded like 30 seconds and that's not all of your team side, that's just the amount of time you are given. When you run out of time, your leader can yield you a little bit more time. So like you still just had a little bit more you wanted to say, then Finn could jump up and say, I yield Claire 15 more seconds, and then Claire can finish her thought, for instance. I was just throwing you out there, Claire, because you were the first person I saw. So, okay, so that's how that part works. And one other thing is Finn and Denver, at any point when it's your turn, you can ask how much time you have remaining, and I can just let you know. Okay, so with that,
Excuse me.
yes, Denver.
What if we have somebody specifically that we want to speak, but they don't necessarily volunteer? Do we just not do anything about that?
You could ask them if they would be willing to speak,
Okay.
and they don't have to, but if they would be willing, they can. If you guys want to speak, you could be sending a chat in the private chat to Finn or to Denver saying, I'd like to speak for this long or whatever, because they will
I was
get
gonna
to-
just ask, like, how do I ask Denver, like, how can I speak for X amount of time? Do I just chat him?
Yeah, that would work for these purposes. If when we're at Yes Week on the assembly floor, you could actually move yourself over. Like the people that want to speak will go sit near the leader of their side, and they'll work something out kind of on the side when it's not their turn to talk about who's going to talk next. But for now, just go ahead and put it in the chat. Okay, the chancellor recognizes the gentlewoman from North Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chancellor. Think of all the children who are not named Finn, who are doing so terribly in the world. That could be your baby if you don't name that baby Finn Jr. I fully believe that that baby should be named Finn Jr. And there is copious amounts of people not named Finn Jr. doing terribly that should prove that point. I reserve my time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The chair recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina.
Thank you, Chancellor. Am I supposed to say anything? What's the thing I'm supposed to say?
That you yield time. Well, you can either talk and just take some
Yeah,
of
I'm
your
just
time.
gonna talk
or you
for
can
a
yield
second.
time. Okay. And you can even do both.
And so I'm
You can
talking to
just
you, right?
give a little blurb. Yep. You can give
Okay.
a little blurb and then still yield
And
a
then
little
yield
bit of
time.
Mhm.
Give me a second.
Could I speak, Denver, while you're taking your second? Could I have 30 seconds of time? I'm not sure how to say this properly. Sorry, I should know that better.
No. Madam Chancellor, as far as I can tell with the statement that Finn made about why you should name your child Finn Jr., you honestly, it sounded quite threatening, don't you think? It seemed like she might have ulterior motives to the reason for naming a child Finn Jr. Maybe a namesake, maybe she wants some sway within your household. I don't know, but it really does seem like there's something else motivating her to get this name. And I reserve my time.
The gentleman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentlewoman. from
I
North
would
Carolina.
like to point out that most of everything that was just said was a logical fallacy, and then I would like to yield 1 minute to Clark Morgan to speak for us.
The the chancellor recognizes Clark for 1 minute.
Thank you. I would like to point out that the name Finn is was derived from Ireland and was a nickname for a happy or good-natured person. Finn would be a good name to name your child because you want them to grow up to be a happy and good-natured person while also having interesting Ireland origins would be something nice for them to tell their friends. I reserve the time back to Finn.
So I yield the time. Yeah.
Sorry, I yield the rest of the time back to Finn.
I reserve my time.
The gentleman yields his time to the gentlewoman. The gentlewoman from North Carolina reserves her time. The chancellor recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina. So back to Denver. Or whoever he designates.
I recognize Catherine for 30 seconds to speak.
I just want to say that I think that Finn is such an amazing name that if we name your baby Finn, everybody's going to be named Finn. And so the whole world will be named Finn. And then all the names on our screen will be Finn, 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 Finn. And then we won't be able to know who is who anymore because Finn is such an amazing name. I think we shouldn't name your baby Finn because it should be reserved for Finn herself. I yield back the time.
I yield my time to Isabel Taylor to speak.
Okay, hold on one second.
Is it reserved? What is it?
So because we do this ping pong debate thing, since you yielded, you can fit in an extra little something and still yield to someone else, but you're not going to yield to two people
Okay.
without it going back to the proponent. So Izzy can be
Sounds
the
good.
next time it gets back to you. So
Well,
you go ahead and reserve your time.
Do I just have to reserve my time or can I speak a bit?
I mean, what I've seen as far as what happens in the House, which is really what I'm basing most of this on, is they will speak first and then yield a little bit of time,
Yeah.
and then not do a spiel. But usually, each of the leaders might reserve the last few seconds of their times, maybe 30 seconds, for like a closing statement. So I think probably best right now to reserve your time, and then next time you can start off again.
That's good. I reserve my time.
Okay, the gentleman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentlewoman from North Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we have here, ladies and gentlemen, that was just said by Catherine is an appeal to motive. Would you really trust the side that's going to use logical fallacies to support their side when clearly Finn Jr. is the most impeccable name that you could choose? They have said so themselves. And yet they're using logical fallacies to turn that around on you? I reserve my time.
Okay, for the right.
The gentlewoman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina.
I'd like to point out that if we're talking about the logical fallacies each other have used, your previous statement 2 times ago and everything you said within that time period was also a logical fallacy. I'd also like to point out that Finn is a name that, while yes, maybe it does mean something good in Latin, we do not speak Latin. So, if we're talking about it within a public school system or even a private school system, the name Finn would get made fun of, and I could see very easily somebody being nicknamed Finn after a fish. And I could see several reasons why this would hurt their schooling and their emotional health. I reserve my time.
The gentleman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentlewoman from North Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That is also a fallacy, but I would like to point out that we speak a Latin-based language, meaning that the positive meaning from Latin does translate into our language. Thank you, I reserve my time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina.
The word Finn is not in the English dictionary, so it does not necessarily translate over as an actual word. I reserve my time.
The gentleman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentlewoman from North Carolina.
Thank you. It is in the English dictionary. Actually, it means a very important math term that is used in calculus. Thank you. I reserve my time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina.
So you want to name the child after calculus? If that's the only meaning that it has within the English language, then you want to name your child after calculus. I don't think that's fit for a child. That maybe that child wants to be an artist, and then they're held up to the expectations of becoming a mathematic major. I reserve my time.
The gentleman reserves. Okay, at this point, I'm just going to pause a little bit to talk a little bit about what is happening. So, in general, in the House, I just want to tweak a little bit of what we're seeing to tell you how it typically would be done. This is starting to be a little bit, Denver versus Finn. You guys would need to remember, first of all, you're always speaking to the chair. And it's not that you can't aggressively argue against the other person's argument, but you want to avoid anything that looks like you're taking the other person head on. It's just about taking the arguments head on. And so you can be super aggressive and call out their argument in ways that would, potentially be kind of offensive, but you never want it to be like, you said this or you said this. And so they're like super polite in their words, and they're constantly calling each other my friend. My friend from, Nebraska says blah, 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 but this is blah. So you can argue totally vigorously with their argument, but you make it sound like they're a genius. You just need to listen to why I'm even smarter. Like, it's all so polite is what I'm trying to say. The other thing is, just for the sake of our practice, we just have a couple minutes left for each side. Can you guys go ahead and yield time to other people so that other people get turns to argue, just for funsies? Okay, so the chancellor recognizes the gentlewoman from North Carolina. Sorry, the gentlewoman. Finn, are you ready to yield time to someone?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chancellor. I yield time to Amy Parks.
Okay, how much time?
I yield 1 minute to Amy Parks.
Okay, the chancellor recognizes Amy Parks for 1 minute.
I would like to point out that the previous statement made by the opposition was an equivocation fallacy based on illogical principles and is not actually relevant to the actual name. And all of the arguments, I would like to say that all of the arguments so far used by them have been identifiable logical fallacies. And while they also accuse us of logical fallacies, none have been actually pointed out or named. So womp womp. I yield my time.
The gentlewoman from Virginia yields. Does the gentlewoman from North Carolina reserve? Finn, do you reserve your time?
Yes, I reserve the rest of my time.
Okay. The gentlewoman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina.
I yield my time to Nathaniel Petty.
Okay, you got to say how much time. You can, or
A
if you
minute.
the rest of your time, you can say the balance of your time.
A minute is fine.
Okay, the chancellor recognizes Nathaniel Petty for 1 minute.
I think that I would like to go back to one of the arguments made at the beginning that was actually relevant to the entire discussion instead of talking about just logical fallacies and etc. One of the arguments on the supporting side was that people that are not successful aren't named Finn. I would like to rebuttal that and say I know nobody that has copious amounts of success that is named Finn. So whether that means you're going to be successful or not, I don't think it will be. You'll be not successful or successful, but I don't think it changes your chance at success in any way, shape, or form. I yield my time.
The gentleman yields. Denver, you can just jump in, by the way, with I reserve. Like, just say it casually.
I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentlewoman from North Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to point out that there is, in fact, a very successful, very prominent Finn in the call with you. And then I would like to yield a minute of time to Clark Morgan.
I would like to point out.
Clark Morgan is recognized.
Sorry. I'd like to point out that the opposition has not led any facts to why the child should not be named Finn, whereas we have, even if we did use some logical fallacies, all of their argument was logical fallacies, and they didn't have any supporting evidence or reason. I yield my time back to Finn.
Serve the rest of our time.
The gentleman yields his time and the gentlewoman reserves her time. The chancellor recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina. Also, you don't have to take all of your time. If you guys
Yeah,
are done,
no one else wants on my thing wants to speak, so
if you're done, you can just say I reserve my time, and then it goes back to Finn, and she can still have more time.
I reserve my time.
Okay. The gentleman reserves. The chancellor recognizes the gentlewoman from North Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really have nothing left to say except that I think that this is, in fact, the best choice for you and your baby. And I have also found this incredible information that, and I quote, persons with the name Finn are helpful and friendly. They are artistic and imaginative. They are gracious, truthful, and straightforward. People with the name Finn are seekers of wisdom and knowledge, that they have a deep desire and yearning to learn, and they will possess the ability that will assist them to be a great teacher in any field. Close quote. As you can see by this name would best support your family values and goals. I finished my time.
The chancellor recognizes the gentleman from North Carolina for the remainder of his time.
I yield my time to Eliza Hester.
Okay, how much time?
I don't know, just the rest of it, the balance of my time.
Okay, the balance of time is yielded to, or is given to Eliza Hester.
Thank you. I would just like to point out that while Finn Jr. is a good name, are we referring to the name Finn Jr. in general or just the name Finn? Also, there are other excellent names other than Finn and Finn Jr., such as Sophia Grace, Charlotte May, and Abigail Pearl. I personally do like Sophia Grace. Many of these names also have excellent names, and I know successful people by those names. Also, Finn Jr. was not on the original list of ideas, so it sounds like, I don't know, it would be a great name, but there are other ideas too. I yield my time.
The gentlewoman yields. The gentleman from North Carolina has 25 seconds remaining, which you can take or you can just yield.
Yeah. I'd like to point out that seeing how this is an opinion-based discussion, I don't see how there are many points we can bring up. I'd also like to point out that you didn't cite any source for that thing that little quote that you brought, Finn. So I'm not sure that it's a legitimate source. I end my time.
Okay, guys, this was awesome. First, before we go into kind of debriefing, I see there's some questions in the chat. We've gone over quite a bit today. I don't have anywhere that I need to be, and so I don't mind that and would be happy to debrief and just wrap this up. But don't feel bad if you guys need to go. We're going to keep the recording going. So if you need to go and you want to watch later, or if you just need to go, that's totally fine. But I just want to make sure we address the questions. Yeah, Catherine.
I just wanted to point out a few things really quickly. Number one, I liked how you guys use logical fallacies and how you pointed them out. If you're pointing out logical fallacies, people tend to use them less, but it's fun to learn how to do it. That's why I wanted Denver to let me throw that in there for you and just like it really highlight. That's one of the ones we talked about today. Speed makes this fun. The faster you can do it, write down on a piece of paper the things you're supposed to say, like Denver and Finn. Like if you're writing down those phrases, and we'll give them to you at the sim, it'll help you go faster with that. So speed makes this really fun. Also, one of the things that makes this fun is if you've got these outrageous topics and you will have researched your topic a little bit before you present it to the General Assembly. So you'll have more information. You guys were doing this on the fly. You did a great job, all of you. And this is how it's really going to be. And the juxtaposition of all this formality and talking to the chair and being complimentary, but kind of ripping them with your your arguments and stuff like this. This is what makes this whole thing outrageous and fun, and what's going to really make you guys have a blast. So you guys, I think, just 2 thumbs up for all the work you did today.
And I would just say 5 minutes might be a little bit long. If that's longer than you need, then you could just yield that time back, and maybe at Yes Week we'll move faster and the debates won't even have 5 minutes for each side if that's going too long. On the actual House floor, they use more than 5 minutes for most debates, but that was all I was going to allot for this time. And it actually seemed like it did go a little long. Izzy had to go, but she asked, would she be allowed to bring up another name in a different bill? And I want to speak to that really quick. If another bill was going to be brought up, it would need to be brought up separately. So we would finish the debate on this bill before we would start another bill. But that would be totally fine. In fact, in the middle of the debate, Izzy could sit there and write her bill and go put it in the hopper. And so that bill would be ready to be discussed. And then when this part is done, she could make a motion to discuss her bill with a different name. That would totally be fine. Another option would be, even in the middle of the debate about a bill, someone could make a motion to amend the bill. And so maybe they want to name the baby something that, like, just change part of it. And so instead of Finn Jr., they might want to choose Finn Carmen. And so they could just make that amendment. And then we would stop discussing Finn Jr. and discuss the amendment, decide on that, and then move back to the original bill if the amendment doesn't pass, or move back to discussing the bill. If the amendment does pass, then it changes what the actual bill is. Does that make sense? Okay, so at this point, we would then, just to finish up, we would say the question is on whether to name Bonnie's baby Finn Jr. The question is on this just means we're about to vote on this question. And then we would lead a vote. If the bill passes, then it goes on to the Senate and to the chief executive officer. You know, in the House, that it goes to the Senate, and if they both pass, then it goes to the president. So at Yes Week, if the bill passes, it really will go on to the Senate to be approved, and then to the chief executive officer. That will all happen outside of the assembly, and you will be told the results of that process happening. And remember, we will have all of these things written out. We're just introducing them now. Next time when we come, we're going to put it all together and have practice sessions and have some more resources for you written out so that you can see it all together. Does anyone have any questions about what we did today in our floor assembly? Okay. In that case, I yield my time back to our chancellor.
Thank you. I will now entertain any motions.
I move that we discuss follow-up assignments and announcements.
It has been moved that we discuss follow-up assignments and announcements. Any seconds?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we follow up assignments and announcements. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. In the eyes of the chancellor, this motion passes.
Okay,
The
guys,
chancellor
I know.
recognizes Bonnie for 5 minutes to discuss follow-up assignments and announcements.
Sorry, Alyssa, and thank you. I know we've used a lot of time, so I'm going to go quick. Remember, I send out follow-up emails after each of these calls, and so I will keep these announcements there too. So you'll have another place, but I'm just going to go through them quickly. First of all, we are not meeting next week. Several of us have other places to be next Monday at 3 o'clock, and so we're not going to be meeting next week on Monday. However, it was decided since the last time that we met, and hopefully you saw the email about the Tell the Tales campaign. This is a new campaign that's happening for Yes Week. It's a cooperative effort between the assembly and the media. And there's a few things I need you to know about it. One of them is that next Tuesday night, there will not be a media workshop as there normally is on Tuesday evenings. Instead, all of you in the assembly and everyone in the media or the people who are going to both workshops are invited to come Tuesday at 6:30, and we will send a link out. It's not the same as our assembly workshops. It'll be the media workshops link. We will send that out in an email. You are all welcome to come at 6:30 for the Tell the Tales campaign. And especially those of you who are running in the election are strongly encouraged to come to that meeting. It will be helpful for your campaign. Anyone who wants to come and participate is also very, very welcome, even if you're not running in the election. So what we will be doing is matching up members of the assembly with members of the media for planning about making videos. So the media is planning to do interviews or make video campaign videos like commercials for anyone running, or to like to have you talk about a bill that you're proposing. And these things will be used preparatory to Yes Week and at Yes Week. And so if you would like any kind of practice, any publicity, anything to get your name and your face out there, that will help. It also will give the media people opportunities to practice, and they need to submit audition tapes. So they need our help and we need theirs. It's this cooperative work. So next Tuesday, which I believe is it's April 30th. April 30th at 6:30, and we'll send out the Zoom link for the Tell the Tales campaign. We'd love to have you. Okay. Reminder too, if you are intending to run in the election and you have not informed Nicholas and Catherine and me, the deadline to do that is a week from today, April 29th. You can do that by sending us an email or letting us know before you leave here today. Also, do you guys know about the Yes Week YouTube channel? Okay, check your emails. Yes Week has a YouTube channel, and it has little blips about some of our evening activities, all the videos that Joy has been sending out, as well as all the recordings from the workshops are there. So if you're missing anything that you need to go back and watch and you don't want to sort through your past emails, you can just check the YouTube channel. You just go to YouTube and search Youth Experience Summit, and that is where the channel is. Okay, final thing about announcements is please write bills. And let me tell you a little bit more about why. So if you, for one thing, the mentors could really use some of your ideas about bills and what kind of things you want. If you were to write a bill before Yes Week, it's more likely that we would be discussing your bill in the assembly workshops, for one thing. And also, it is more likely that your bill will affect things that happen at Yes Week. So that's why it might be beneficial to you. So think about your character, your fairy tale character, and what that person or creature would want to have happen. And know that if you write a bill, it will just help your influence grow. It'll help your publicity grow for the issues that matter to you. And that can be done before Yes Week. So any bills that you submit will be seen by the Yes Week leaders and could have influence on where things go. So, I mean, you don't have to, but you're always welcome to write a bill. The bill template goes out in the email every week, and you can just write those and send them back to us and bring them to the workshops. Okay, I think that is all. Does anyone have any questions on announcements? Oh, Joy.
I just wanted to say, to clarify, if this meeting next Tuesday, if you already know what your video you're going to make and you've already talked to, like, let's say you're an assembly person and you already talked to a media person and you've already made a team, then let us know who that is, but you don't have to come if you already know you've already set it up. So this is for so that you can set it up, so that you can make connections, correct? This is a connection.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah, although you're not limited to just one video. The media team's asked to do more than one video. And so, especially if you're running the election, but everybody, you could do an interview video and a commercial and an introduction to a bill. You could do as many of you as you want, but the media mentor, Sonia, has said that you need to work with different media members each time you make a different video. So if you have one team, but you want to make more than one video, you can still come and find other team members to work with.
So can I make one quick point?
Yeah.
The goal of this meeting is to get together assembly people and media people. Assembly people have the goal of getting elected. Media people have the goal of getting on the media team. This is their audition for the media team, the video they create with you. This is your election video to get elected. Anybody on the assembly, even if you aren't running, can volunteer to participate. If you wanted to bring up some issue from your land or your realm or your character's story or whatever, you could be just talking in an interview about a bill that you're passing. So you could still get some airtime for some idea you might want to have, or just help out the media people get elected. I mean, get on their media, in the media team. So it's a twofold mission, and we're combining it so that both teams get something out of it.
Great. And with that, I yield my time.
Thank you. I will now entertain any motions.
I motion that we're done.
We're just about there.
I move that we adjourn until Monday, May 6th at 3 p.m.
It has been moved that we adjourn until Monday, May 6th at 3 p.m. Any seconds?
I second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn until Monday, May 6th at 3 p.m. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. This meeting is now adjourned until Monday, May 6th at 3 p.m.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We did plan before we knew how much we were going to go over our time today to have a committee meeting for Q&A. And if you have questions, please feel free to stay on and ask them. That's fine. We also were thinking about brainstorming some bill ideas. If you're like so enthusiastic that you want to stay, I'll stay with you. But we've gone over a lot, so I understand if you guys just want to go. But anyone with questions or wanting to continue can stay. And other than that, we'll say goodbye until 2 weeks from today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Catherine, are you going to call me, or are we going to stay on and talk?